I mean, ultimately, we want to encourage questions from you. And so please either unmute or type them into the box or whatever it might be. But in the first instance, I'm just going to engage Emma into the conversation, because Emma, having been at MPW for 3 years now, isn't it, knows probably more about it than most people. So actually, Emma, do you mind, I suppose, giving a sense, really, giving a sense of day one? What does an average day look like? What can students expect to experience on day one, or weeks 1 and 2, I should probably say, in September?
I think it's what you touched on earlier, James. I think one of the really special things about MPW is that we're quite unlike other schools in that when students arrive on day one, you don't have this kind of scary, intimidating feeling of being the only new student in class. Actually, you're in amongst everybody else is in the same boat, and I think that's a very relaxing, familiar environment for many students. It can be quite reassuring that actually everyone's trying to find their way around our labyrinth of a college. Everyone's trying to find the shortcuts in the school to avoid
How long did it take you to get used to the labyrinth of the college?
I think a good 6 months. For a long time, I was going up and down 4 flights of stairs unnecessarily, and then I found the shortcuts. So once our students, if anyone ever wants a tour of shortcuts, the unofficial guided tour of MPW, I'm the person.
Absolutely. You always feel a sense of pride when you find the shortcut as well, don't you? Because all of a sudden it puts your life in perspective.
Exactly. But it's a nice experience for all the students. It's quite a bonding experience for them. They automatically have friends ready-made practically as soon as they enter the school, which is really quite lovely. Day one, in terms of timetable, students would receive the very bare bones of the timetable. So they'd have their classes scheduled. And of course, students are free to come and go between classes. We recommend students to really make use of the facilities. So during their free periods, they could go to one of our 3 libraries on site. They could go to the common room. They could go to the cafeteria that we have downstairs in the basement. But really, if they choose to come and go between classes, it can also be quite nice for them on the first day in one of the breaks to nip out and go to the local Starbucks and have a coffee with new friends. So the timetable can really be built up that way. You can, of course, add in meetings with your personal tutor that we call the Director of Studies. You can have extracurricular activities that we really recommend students to join in on, especially in the first few weeks. I think it's really, really recommended for students to join in, even if you're not the biggest sports fan or the biggest debater. Why not get involved? It's a great way to make new friends and meet new people that way.
It's about trying something new, basically.
I'm sorry?
Trying something new, basically.
Exactly. Why not? You never know. It might be something that you really enjoy, and perhaps in your previous school you didn't have the opportunity to give it a go. So all of our extracurriculars at MPW, they aren't compulsory. So that means that students who are in the club or the sports, they want to be there. Of course, we're quite successful because when you get a committed football team of people who actually want to be playing football, then the competition starts to get a bit fierce. With other extracurricular societies, I suppose we have, aside from sports, we have all the usual things you would expect in any school. So we've got debating, there's Model United Nations, we have our Student Ambassador Programme. Give it a go in the first few weeks and you're going to make friends that way. With the small class sizes, again, that's a very easy way to make friends. So if you're just having to learn the names of 7 other classmates, that becomes quite easy. And then say you meet someone in your geography class and they are then going to their English literature class, you then make friends that way. So I think the first few weeks of life at MPW it's a steep learning curve. You have a lot of names, a lot of directions, a lot of classroom numbers to learn, but it's also very fun, and I would really recommend students just to really take the opportunity and make the most of it.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that is exceptionally valuable as advice within there. I mean, the experience will always be defined by what you make of it, and you can be who you want to be as much as anything else. I will just add in at this particular stage, we're more than happy to talk about the COVID situation and what plans we have coming in place for September. But the one key thing, picking up on what Emma said, is there should be no reason why anything should be any different this time round. in terms of making friends and getting to know people, albeit we just have a few more rules that we have to be aware of. But it's certainly not going to water down our offering or our delivery. The gyms are back open in England, which means that all of our sports will be back in place as well. So nothing really is going to slow down demonstrably. It's just going to change. So if you do have COVID-related questions, do ask. We actually do
have one here from Eden.
We do. I don't know if you want me to answer that one, James. So we have a student from Ukraine. Should the student come 2 weeks prior to the start date, or should he come in time and have 2 weeks of isolation, or can he take a test and decrease the period of isolation in case the result is negative? And the answer is no, unfortunately. So anybody that's coming from a country where quarantine is in place, they must quarantine for the full duration of 14 days. If the student is living in KSS accommodation, especially, they will be tested by us at the residence, and they will have to self-isolate there. If they're not, then obviously we would still expect them to self-isolate wherever they are staying for that period. Okay. So I hope that answers that question, E. But if you'd like further clarification, I can give it to you, but I will also point you towards our microsite, and I'll put that link in here as we go along the session. We have a question from Tatiana, who says, I have many questions.
The more the merrier.
I start with these. How did the coronavirus situation affect the college? Have you introduced any new rules? James has briefly mentioned that. Regulations in addition to increased level of cleaning and sanitizing. Have you been affected by traveling? Sorry, emails are popping up. For some countries have restricted traveling, any students dropping off or delaying their start. So I will hand that over to you, James and Emma.
Of course. I'll take that one to start with. Well, look, Tatiana, starting at the beginning of your questions, were we affected by coronavirus? Absolutely. I think most people were. But just to put it in context, we actually went full online tuition 10 days before the national lockdown in the UK. So we went ahead of the curve for a very specific reason, which was that we were ready for it. We've been developing for some time now our online provision. Ultimately, it was our hand was forced, as everyone's was, but it was forced at the right time, at the time that we were ready to do it. So within 24 hours, we moved an entire school timetable online to replicate the same thing with the same model, both in terms of tuition and in terms of pastoral support, etc., online within those 24 hours. We then rolled that out until the end of the academic year. So for us, that was mid to late June, incredibly successfully. And there is no play in that. It is an absolute truth. We came out with a 96% attendance record across 5 continents, different time zones, etc., within the space of the time frame that we had. So the MPW model actually lends itself very well to being online. We are an interactive teaching facility. We like to have discussions and exchanges of ideas and opinions and debates, and that's the way classes work. If we're doing that face-to-face on a screen, it's just as effective. Yes, we'd rather be face-to-face in the classroom, but on a screen it still absolutely works. And our online virtual learning environment that we've operated now for some years works in terms of the marking provision, the exchange of work back and forwards, and the monitoring side of things. So as an online provision, worked absolutely perfectly. Mentioning all of that because at the start of the year, we will still be operating some of that. Now, that will not ultimately replace being in face-to-face full-time. What we want is for everyone to be back in face-to-face full-time, but we fully appreciate that the world situation as it is will not always allow that for everyone. So in the very first phase, the first term, possibly even just half term, but we'll see how it goes, we will still be operating the same virtual learning environment. So if you can't be there in the class, you are in essence a virtual person within that group. We're not exceeding group sizes. You are just virtually there until you can be physically there. And that will still give you exactly the same access. Your personal tutor will still contact you in exactly the same way, but up until the point we can get you there. That also extends to those who are coming across and having to quarantine. We will still be teaching you within your boarding facility based upon the fact that we can do this virtually until we can get you in. So from that perspective, it's there. Also, it's worthwhile noting that if we do have to go into a lockdown again, which no one ever wants to do, but we are more than ready to do it, and we will be educating students on our online provision for those who are new to it in the time that we have you already. So as an online perspective, works nicely. So yes, we were affected, but we dealt with it. The second question, have we introduced any new rules? Undoubtedly, yes, because we are fully aware and on top of all the guidelines and guidance we're given, which is often quite movable in terms of how often that we are given new guidelines within there. But at this moment in time, we've spent the last month and a half now preparing the college ready to reopen on August the 10th with all the extra health and safety provisions that we need to put in place. Now, that starts off with oh, sorry, have I got a question there or just an unmuted microphone? Maybe it was just myself. So we start off with at the very front door, you have a temperature check station and a sanitization station. The receptions themselves have screens up within there. We will be using a one-way system flow throughout the themselves. Our staff, when teaching, will be using PPE equipment in order to teach, and all students will be provided with 2 masks, which are washable, in order to be used throughout the college themselves. So we will be actively encouraging the use of all PPE equipment and of social distancing within the realms of common sense within there. Our classes are small by nature, so we can actually deal with a slightly smaller setup within the rooms in order to be able to deal with that. And if anyone is unwell, we have provision in place for how we will deal with that for the rest of the group outside. Beyond that sense, everything, as we say, is common sense. Throughout the course of the building, you'll have hand sanitization stations everywhere. Our extracurricular provision will be to the extent that we are allowed to particularly roll it out. And again, everything is about education. We'll be educating people on the how you travel around London, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing within there. The actual trying to encourage people to use their feet as opposed to use the tube. There'll be a novelty for everyone as well. So there is a lot of education still to be done. We'll be doing that at the very start of the year with our induction program. The students will be absolutely aware of everything that is expected of them. And if you have a look at the microsite Betty will send through, it will talk you through in detail everything that we are doing. Now, just to pick up on your last question as well, have we been affected by the fact some countries have restricted travelling? Yes, because some countries have restricted travelling, but they will still be coming. This is the thing. What we will do is we look at flexibility, and particularly, as I said at the start, because we have our online provision, we are not at the stage whereby we're saying to someone, if you can't come now, then come, or what have you. We're at the stage of saying, look, if you can't come immediately, then that's not your fault. This is how we will begin it. This is how we will start it. So therefore, staggered starts is probably a better way of putting it than a delayed start. And the moment that students are able to come in, they'll be given exactly the same provision and integration and induction and everything that anyone would have had, hopefully, who can start in September itself. One thing, just to conclude my bit, and then maybe someone else wants to say something, but one thing that MPW is 75% basically UK based, with a beautiful 25% international contingent that comes with it. Our school will have a large proportion of students there ready to go in September on day 1. So we are not at the stage whereby we will not have people within the school itself. We will just be at the stage whereby we're integrating people through as soon as they can actually join us. But in the meantime, we will make as much provision as we possibly can. It's a very flippant thing to say, but it's almost to say it's about approaching this with confidence now. It's about not fearing it. We have as many provisions as anyone in place. We have a wonderful system over here. We have a wonderful healthcare system over here. We have a lot of things in place. It's about approaching everything with confidence. If the confidence isn't there, talk to us first before making decisions, and then we'll see what we do. Anyone else want to chip in? Betty, did I cover the bases? Or
yes,
is there anything else?
You did absolutely. Just to reiterate here as well, that we have also signed up to the Safe Schools initiative as well. So we do belong to that. Obviously, the safety and well-being is our top priority. And that includes the colleges and it includes the accommodation as well. And just to highlight here, there have been no cases of COVID at our colleges or halls of residence. And this Safe Schools Charter also, is put in place to ensure that we are complying with all of the rules. And as James has said, so the flexible study options, face coverings for all, so teachers and staff, admin staff, as well as students. Regular temperature testing is in place, sanitizer stations, deep cleaning as well will be taking place before and after the school days and during, and then social distancing, and then on-site COVID-19 testing will be taking place at our residences as well. So, and just to touch upon James's point of September, yes, we would like all students to be with us from the 2nd of September. They're more than welcome to start moving into residences, but we know that that's not likely to happen. So we do have a full induction program, which in normal face-to-face circumstances, any students that are here with us will have a face-to-face induction with all the social distancing measures, but we also have a full online induction on the 4th of September, ready for students to begin their online classes the week after. And that goes for MPW London, Birmingham and Cambridge as well. So we have that in place. I think that's about it in terms of your questions, Tatiana. Was there anything else we didn't answer? And if you do have any deferral students that do want to, obviously they don't feel safe coming over, then we can obviously look at a deferral. But one thing to really highlight here is a student does not benefit by not either starting online or being here. They will miss out from that September to December term, and they will find it difficult to catch up from January. So please do always ask us if you do have a case with a student. We will do everything we can to put a study plan in place for them, especially for the September to December term. And in terms of the international markets, actually everybody's been quite resistant, and we haven't had, interestingly enough, we haven't had a lot of deferral requests, and we've not had a lot of withdrawals either, and that's global. So we're optimistic that we will have a good September start. And to touch on James's point as well, we are 70% British, and for that reason we will have a cohort in the colleges. Fingers crossed nothing changes.
Rather than resistant, but yeah. For sure,
yeah. Okay, I hope that answers that.
Tatiana has one more question here. Could you please expand a bit on your induction programme? Do you have more information on the international induction programme?
I do. So the induction programme will be on the 4th of September, which is the Friday. It will be from 9 until 2 o'clock, and it will be online, and that allows students from all time zones to be able to join us. It will be a welcome from the principal. It will be an opportunity for students to meet their personal tutors. It will be an opportunity for students to have a tour of the college. So we are basically doing an induction virtually. Yes, of course, students will not be having the full face-to-face inductions. They will miss out elements, but that's okay. They don't need that induction. When they arrive, they will have the normal face-to-face induction as well. Prior to that, we will be on the microsite I've just put up. There will be a section there on induction. So all of the documents that we need, all of the pre-recorded sessions as well, things like going around, getting around safely in London, how to put bank, what do I need, what documents do I need for opening a bank account, what documents do I need for going to the GP surgery. So we're doing a full online pre-recorded and live induction the week, so 4th of September, so around the 2nd or 3rd, this will start going live so that students have the opportunity to slowly induct themselves as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the 7th, your induction's on the 7th, James, yes? On the Monday the 7th? Yeah.
Yeah, on the 7th, absolutely.
Yeah. And then classes will resume in London on Wednesday the 9th.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. And just to highlight here that with KSS residents, students can move in from the 2nd of September, and we highly recommend that they they do come on the 2nd of September and they do not come 2 weeks prior. And just to make a point that, you know, for us, we believe that a student who does need to self-isolate and quarantine for 14 days can do that, and will be better placed to do that from within the KSS residence from the 2nd, as opposed to coming on the 23rd of August, where they will be alone. They will be, you know, the effects of that are going to be quite tough on a student. We do have provision in place for those students that choose to come 2 weeks in advance. That's absolutely fine, and they can move into KSS residence from the 23rd. It's free of charge, but there will be a charge of £25 a day meal plan for those students. Okay.
Can I just add in here then on all of this to Tatiana, and to, in fact anyone London based, if actually you'd like to come and have a personal tour and a look round, you've probably been to the college before, but just to see what our provision is and how we are tackling it, if it helps give you any confidence then to give to parents and students beyond that point, you're more than welcome. We are back, I'm there, I will happily show you around, or even do you a virtual tour if you'd rather not come in, but we can show you the provision as much as we can talk to you about the provision.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And just to point there, so MPW London will be open from the 10th of August as of today. That's the plan.
That's fine. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, Tatiana, I did give you a tour just before lockdown, wasn't it? Or at the start of this year. So, but you are more than welcome to come and meet us in person again. So we will be there from the 10th of August. Okay. Absolutely. Any other questions from questions? Yes, Tanya, Hong, E? No? Is there anything you wanted to add, James or Emma, regarding the sort of 7th or for the induction day and how that will look?
No, I think you actually covered everything on the induction side of things, to be honest. I mean, the induction is as much about just getting through the necessities as it is integrating in and welcoming everyone to the actual college itself. We are running it and delaying the start of our timetable till the 9th, just so everyone feels comfortable and confident and relaxed and those sorts of things in their new environment. But apart from that, nothing to add on the induction side of things, really, just to give you a good sense to the place. Tatiana, do we expect to see any changes to the A-level curriculum or the exam requirements due to missed face-to-face teaching? There are consultations going on at the moment, as far as you know, and consultations are still ongoing. I mean, that's more or less what we can say to that moment. Changes to the A-level curriculum, hugely unlikely, in the sense that the A-level curriculum is what the A-level curriculum is. There will be certain subjects that suffer more than others for that. Sciences, because if you can't be there doing the practical experiments, that could always have an implication, and the arts subjects as well, where you actually need to physically be in an art room. However, adaptations are being made to that. The consultations, as much as anything, focus on how we can actually deliver practicals if you can't be there doing them yourself, and often that goes down to videoing or maybe just getting 1 or 2 people doing them at a time. The curriculum is unlikely to change. Exam requirements. Now, a lot of conversations still ongoing there. There's still clarity that we're waiting for about the autumn sitting of the exams themselves and how they're going to look. And being that we are this late in the day and this close to the actual August exam results, it is becoming later and later in terms of what we're actually being given and what we're expecting. My gut feeling, and the gut feeling amongst most of the ISA actually at the moment, is the fact that we are probably business as usual next year. We are just going to be expected to mop up the pieces in terms of getting people through and out the other side. I can imagine the exam process this coming year is going to be harder for some, not for those starting out. Those coming into year 12, business as usual. Those going into year 13 will find that what we're trying to do is get as much learning into a very short space of time as we possibly can. It's going to slightly more replicate our 1-year A-level model than it would be our standard 2-year program. It can be done, but there's going to be a lot of expectation placed on students. again, not meaning to be shameless about this in any way, but we're going to be relatively well set up for it because it's something we're already very used to doing. Schools that aren't used to delivering one-year programs are going to find it a lot harder to deliver all of that teaching within there. So I think things like extra half-term or holiday provision programs or revision courses are going to very much come to the fore this year as people try and get through as much teaching as they can. I think the government's strongest sense to it is we don't have a great other answer for it. So therefore, what we will do is actually do what we've always done. Let's get the exams in the normal place. We don't know about autumn. Let's just park it until the results come out, and then we'll take it from there. I think there'll be a greater emphasis placed on June next year, if I'm honest, Tatiana, and that is the sense amongst the ISA at the moment. As for consultations ongoing, as soon as we know, we will release as much as we possibly can to everybody, but we are set up for whatever eventuality.
Thank you, James.
All right. I've recently become a spokesperson for the government, you see, so this is
and you did it so well.
That they want you to say. But yeah, it's true. I mean, all the conversations going on at the moment amongst everyone in the hierarchy in the ISA just seems to suggest we will be business as usual. But how we adapt to that business as usual in the new normal is what we need to release to people as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody?
I might just, if there is no other thing, just throw a question Emma's way, and just because it gives a sense to students, agents, parents alike at the moment. But Emma, your take from having done this for as long as you have, what makes a successful student at MPW, and who actually does well at the end of it all? And then I'll come to Tatiana's question after that.
Sure, it's a good question and one that we're asked a lot. I think that I suppose a student who attends MPW that's going to get the most from the experience needs to be willing to really take the opportunity as much as they can. So a student who is motivated to learn, who's fairly independent, we don't expect them to join us in lower sixth being fully autonomous with their revision timetables. That's something that we will help them with while they're here with us. But a student who's fairly independent that then can go on to university and be able to manage their own learning schedule. A student that really wants to be here and who wants to be making the most of what we have to offer. So MPW is very much the place where if you want to be part of the extracurricular activities, you're very welcome to. If you want to really get involved with everything that we have to offer, the higher education fairs, the student ambassador programme, all our different offerings, then you really have to seize that opportunity. So I think that I suppose the ideal MPW student is someone who's motivated. Would you add anything to that?
No, I think that's right. I think the ideal student is the one who engages with the approach that we're taking. It's with coming across and wanting to be in an interactive environment. If it's just a chalk and talk and you just want to be led by the teacher, etc., we're not the ideal place in that sense, because we do want to engage with you. We will bring out your confidence over time, but if it's not the way you like to be taught, then at least we're upfront about that from the outset. So the ideal person is not necessarily the person who knows what they want to do. That's always a good thing if you do, but it's the person who engages with how we are trying to approach it, because then you get so much more from the experience that we.
Well, exactly. In a class size of only 8 students, you can't really hide. You
stick out a little bit, don't you? The sore thumb. You are the quiet one, but confidence develops over time. We had another question from Tatiana, actually. If an international student experiences difficulties while studying, how can parents support them in addition to the school support? Do you want to pick up on that one immediately, and then I'll fill in the gaps?
Sure, it's a good question. Of course, you've got the school support, so you have that safety net of the Director of Studies. We also have an on-site college counsellor. But in how can parents support them? I suppose being aware of all the situations. So we have a very transparent relationship between the college and the home. Parents are always going to be updated, not only on how the student is doing in terms of their progress in class, but down to their daily attendance. If they're late for class, There is a very open relationship between the Director of Studies and the parents. So the parents will have very regular meetings, but they also have that flexibility to contact the Director of Studies at any time. And the Director of Studies is going to be the person who's looking out for the student. They have their best interests at heart. Because it is such a close relationship with the student, the Director of Studies will notice if they're starting to look a little bit down, perhaps things don't feel right with them, and that's when they can reach out to the parents to get them on track as well. So really engaging with the Director of Studies is the best thing that the parents can do.
And I just to add there as well, from international students' perspective, the one great thing which happens as well is the teachers actually talk to the Director of Studies. So it's not this kind of Director of Studies working alone in a building somewhere else. It's, you know, it's a very open dialogue, and I've witnessed it myself being in the DOS hub, where a DOS will sit there and a tutor would come in and say, oh, you know, Bobby is having a really difficult time, we need to call a meeting. Or, you know, when we're assessing, when we do the testing as well, and kind of we can obviously monitor progress from there. And the other nice thing as well is that the feedback that we do get from parents is the kind of open door policy which we have, and that's one of the greatest things is, you know, even from the principal to the Director of Studies to a tutor, you know, it's very much, if there's a problem, we're on it. So I always say to a student, you know, the DOS is your most important person in your life the moment you arrive, but also, you know, engage. Your parents will have access to the virtual learning environment as well, where they can obviously look at the students' performance, progress. And so it is very open. There is a lot of communication which happens, but to touch on your point, Emma, the key part here is it's the students' welfare and the, you know, the students at the forefront of everything that we are trying to achieve here. Because if they're not happy, they're not going to be successful. You know, that's ultimately where it ends as well, isn't it? So
absolutely. Nothing again really to add further to that, because I think that's right. And put your faith in the school, trust us, because that's all we literally ask a parent to do, is just to trust us to come through and deliver what actually we promised you from the outset. That's what we're used to doing, and if we can't deliver on it, then that's our reputation at the end of the day. The one thing I just want to sort of add, though, is that there is a tendency among parents to, as soon as there to be a problem of any sort, to try and get a tutor or as many tutors as possible in play. Don't do that, please. That's why I'm saying trust the school. Talk to the school and say, look, we need a little bit more help here, we need a little bit more help there. Chances are we've already noted it. We have free individual help with our surgery system anyway. If we feel that there is something necessary, it is our responsibility to do it. If we start bringing in tutors outside, then we're watering down the product and actually knowing what that student is actually capable of. We want that transparency Emma talked about by letting us have complete ownership. So what parents can do is trust us and give us complete ownership. And if it's necessary to do something else, we will be doing that something else and keeping you informed at each and every stage.
Yeah.
Yes. And for any agents that are on this call today, we always notify you as well if there is a problem. So you won't hear it from the parent, or at the end, your account manager will always let you know if there is an issue as well. So the communication channels are there for you also, especially as some of you are also the guardians for the students as well. Okay, great. Any other questions?
We also had Susan join during that. Yes. So Susan, I don't know if you've got any questions, because we answered a few before you were able to join, but perhaps you might have something that you are looking to get clarification on, maybe something we can answer for you, even if maybe we touched on it already.
What I will do for Susan is I will put the link here again for our microsite for September, because it would have disappeared. There we go. So and I guess that's the microsite is our site, which is constantly being updated with our September plans. You will also obviously be getting communication centrally from the international team. But if there, you know, talk to us if you have any concerns, if you have any questions. Nothing is too small, okay? Just get in touch with us and we will do our best to answer you. If you do have any students that are still kind of uncertain about their study plans for September, James is available to interview your students, to give them an admissions meeting, and we can set that up for you as well. So each student at MPW has a admissions meeting or an interview, so that we can obviously make sure that we're giving the student the best study plan and we're giving them all of the support that they will need. So do get in touch with us if you do have any students still stuck in limbo, or who are, you know, a boarding school's not the right environment for them, or, you know, they left too early, they want to repeat the year, or any of those cases we can help with. James, yes?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Case by case basis. And all we are looking at, rather than it being in any way too formal an interview, all we are looking for from the outset is really just to get to understand you, and ultimately whether you're the right fit for the college, and equally, are we the right fit for you? It's a shared process. Right.
Okay.
Anything further?
Maybe that's it. So feel free to email us. So you can email us at international@mpw.ac.uk if you do have any other questions. The microsite is there, so please do keep visiting the microsite, and do please look out on your emails for any further updates. But for now, I think that is it. James, thank you very much. Emma, thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us. Stay safe, please. And hopefully we'll see your students and yourselves very, very soon. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.